I've been married to my wife for 4 years now, although we're still relatively new to marriage. Having dated for 2 years before tying the knot, our relationship seemed strong with no signs of trouble. The love we shared was genuine, and we built a foundation of trust during our courtship. I'm 30 and she's 26. The incident that revealed my wife's infidelity occurred on the 4th of July during a party hosted by her friend. Before diving into the details of that evening, let me provide some context. About a week before the 4th, my wife mentioned that her close friend was hosting a celebration and invited us to join. We usually have a reliable babysitter for our 3-year-old and always inform her in advance when we need help. For this particular event, however, my wife informed me that she had contacted the babysitter, but her schedule was full and she wouldn't be able to help. I was a bit disappointed. Since having our child, spending quality time with my wife had become rarer, and I was looking forward to this event. My wife expressed how much she wanted to attend the party and suggested that I stay home with our child while she went. Wanted her to have fun. I agreed and said I'd take care of things at home. Here's where things took an unexpected turn. My wife knew that I wasn't particularly fond of her friend. While my wife is 26, her friend is 3 years younger and lives a carefree lifestyle, being single. I didn't want to sound controlling, but I did caution my wife to be mindful of her friend's influence. On the morning of the 4th of July, I decided to take an unusual step. I called the babysitter myself. Normally, my wife handles these arrangements, so I had to search for the sitter's contact information in her phone. I thought that if I offered her a higher hourly rate, she might reconsider and agree to take care of our child that evening. If it worked out, I planned to surprise my wife and let her know that we could go to the event together. However, things started to unravel when I called the babysitter and asked her to reconsider. She sounded surprised and told me it was the first time I had asked about that day. Taken aback, I asked if she remembered my wife reaching out to schedule the evening. She confirmed that no call had been made by my wife. At that moment, I realized my wife had lied about the babysitter arrangement for reasons I couldn't immediately understand. That was concerning. I arranged for the sitter to come over at 10 p.m. and told my wife I would stay home while she left the party around 8 p.m. Before ending the call with the sitter, I asked her not to tell my wife about the plans. I explained that I wanted it to be a surprise. When the sitter reminded me that I had mentioned my wife's attempt to arrange the night, I quickly covered it up, claiming that we thought the date night might be canceled. But since she was on board, we could still enjoy the evening as planned. Around 8 p.m., my wife left for the event, and I waited for the sitter, who arrived on time. Once she was settled, I headed to the party my wife had mentioned. To be honest, I had a suspicion that she might not show up at the event and instead go somewhere else. But to my surprise, she was there. Her friend greeted me as I arrived. Seeing me there seemed to shock her, and she quickly called my wife over. My wife's reaction was more than surprised. She was in total disbelief. It had only been about 3 hours since she had left home, yet she appeared quite intoxicated. Her eyes were bloodshot, and her cold reception toward me made things uncomfortable. She repeatedly asked why I was there and who was taking care of our child. I reassured her that the sitter was taking care of things and that I just wanted us to enjoy the evening together and watch the fireworks. The party was in a medium-sized house with about 15 to 20 people crammed inside. What struck me right away was a gender imbalance. There were noticeably more men than women, almost a 2-to-1 ratio. We managed to get past the awkward exchange, but the deception surrounding my wife's absence still nagged at me. The evening seemed to revolve around a game of truth or dare, and I overheard someone suggesting they continue the game. At that point, I decided to join a friendly group of guys who seemed lively, possibly due to the alcohol. As the evening wore on, my wife's behavior grew increasingly agitated. She expressed a desire to leave and go home, which immediately raised a red flag for me. It was clear she was hiding something. I assured her we could leave, but I asked for a moment to try some drinks since I had just arrived. I made my way into the kitchen and struck up a conversation with one of the guys there. After introducing myself to a random guy, I casually asked if he was enjoying the party. He introduced himself in return and confirmed that he was indeed having a good time. I then mentioned that I was thinking about making a move on one of the girls at the party. though I wasn't sure who was available. I started pointing out different girls one by one, and he helped me figure out who was in a relationship and who might be open to being approached. Eventually, I pointed to my wife, though I didn't reveal her identity to him. I then asked for his opinion on her. He told me that she was attractive, but warned me that she was off limits because she had come a guy he knew as a friend. I acted interested and asked him to elaborate on this guy. The stranger went on to describe my wife's affair partner, explaining that they had met at a concert and had been involved ever since. This revelation hit me like a punch to the gut. The timeline matched up perfectly. My wife had attended that concert, and I was there with her for most of the event. The only time I wasn't with her was when she went off to get some snacks, insisting she go alone. I remember she took an unusually long time to return, but I brushed it off, thinking there was a long line or she had to use a restroom. That concern happened about a month ago, and since then, my wife had been frequently leaving the house, even going on a trip out of town. All this new information left me questioning everything. The stranger continued bragging about my wife, talking about her as if she were a prize he had won for his friend. He kept sharing more details, mentioning that he had come to the party to pursue my wife's friend, whom he described as a free spirit. I couldn't tell if my reaction was showing, but I could no longer fake it. Just then, my wife's friend joined conversation, probably realizing where my questions were heading. It was too late, though. I could tell she was part of the deception as well. I excused myself from the conversation, but asked my wife's friend where my wife was. She suggested checking the patio, and that's where I found her, talking to the man. It looked like they were having a heated conversation, or perhaps she was trying to convince him of something. I approached them and introduced myself to the man who had been involved with my wife. Before I could say anything else, my wife hurriedly pulled me aside, insisting that we leave the party. I angrily swatted her hand away and told her she could leave if she wanted, but I was staying to talk to the man. I confronted him directly, introducing myself as her husband. I asked him bluntly if he knew my wife was married before getting involved with her. By this point, I had already pieced together the truth about their relationship, and I wasn't trying to fight him. My intimidating presence was more to let my wife know I had discovered her infidelity and to make the guy a little uncomfortable. I asked him again, making it clear I didn't want to ruin the party, but I needed to know if he was aware of my wife's marital status before getting involved with her. My wife, getting increasingly anxious, tried to hold me back while apologizing. The guy saw the bottle in my hand, realized he was cornered with no backup, and fell for my act. He began apologizing, saying he hadn't known she was married when they started talking. I asked how many times they had been together, and he answered. I wished him a good night and walked away. I got into my car and drove home, telling my wife I wanted a divorce. I checked into a hotel where I'm writing this as a form of self-therapy. Right now, I feel lost about what steps to take. This is my first experience with divorce, and I'm unfamiliar with co-parenting, especially since I didn't grow up in a household like that. What I do know is that I can't bear to see her again, and this whole situation is making me physically sick. I'll probably update you on what happens next, but for now I'm truly uncertain about everything. Top comment. I'm glad Opie told her he was divorcing her before leaving. Personally, I would also tell her that I'm DNA testing the child, and that he's not mine. I'd make her regret ever meeting me. Thank you for reading my story to the end. If you liked it, please support us with a like and subscribe to the channel. Feel free to leave your thoughts in the comment section.